Okay, everyone. So here we are with this moment to think about mindset. We're thinking about what kind of mindset goes into growing an independent learner. That's what we want to focus on. And I want to kind of stress mindset. There are eight ideas I'm going to share with you that moms and dads, or moms or dads, whoever's doing the game, uh, really need to have in their focus. And let me tell you about a mindset, why this thing's so valuable. A few years ago, I went through, well, every year in the summer, for the past many years, I run in our neighborhood area. It's a mile or so, well, it's about a 4 mile loop. And so I run, but I run in the southern part of Texas, in the San Antonio area. And I'll run when it's 100. I think last summer the hot day was 106. And so I run in 106. And I do this for a couple of reasons. One is I don't like the weather telling me what I can and can't do. And number two, I found it really gets all the neighbors to pray for me because they're all worried to death I'm going to drop dead from heat prostration or something. So that's really not what's going to happen, because what is going on is I have a mindset. And my mindset, I started developing, I've had it all my life, but I went through some training in the Mojave Desert for about a week. And we went through a lot of rigorous physical things. And it was hot and it was dry. And, we're climbing these small mountain peaks out there and doing competitions and team stuff and all the rest. And part of what you learn is those activities work better when you have the right mindset. So one of the things might be like the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So learning to do small things well means you can learn to do big things well. And so having this mindset can make a huge difference. And so I have a mindset when I run of I'll pay attention to my body, and the heat won't kill me, and I'll be home before I know it, and I'll slow down and walk if I feel bad. It's not that big of a deal. But my mindset is this weather will not tell me what to do. Now, when we talk about homeschooling, it's a similar game. If you don't have the right mindset in what you're doing, for example, if you have a mindset that, well, we'll give homeschooling a try, I guarantee you that is a recipe for failure, because you don't try at homeschool. You either do it or you don't do it. If you give it a try, most everything you give a try, you don't do. Even, when we try to ask our kids to give food a try, they give it a try, and that's about it. And they put it down. They go, I don't like it. I don't like green eggs and ham. I do not like them somehow. I don't, right? And that's the nature of the game. So I want to share with you these eight ideas that you want in your mind, these things really that you need to believe. You need to buy into them. And I don't know how to get you to buy into them, but I am going to try. So we'll see if you can't start stewing on these things. If you have any questions, I forgot to put this up here, questions in chat. Close enough. So if you have any questions while I'm going through this, please put those questions in the chat, right? So what I want to do is walk you through a real brief PowerPoint just to look at these eight ideas. I think you'll find this interesting and much more helpful this way. It always does that crazy thing. All right, so here we are. With this independent homeschool mindset. And this mindset, I'm referring to as the eight ideas mom and dad must believe. So this is a buying into, and you might need to mull on it. You might have many of these. You might totally disagree, and that's great too, because it sets you in a direction of understanding the way we grew our independent learners involved this way of thinking, this mindset. So, we've got 5 kids that have graduated college and are having babies and are fully employed and have homes and are kind of doing life, contributing to their churches and their communities, etc. So here's the first idea you need to believe. for the right kind of mindset for independent learners. My child can learn. Now, this may not sound like much, but I encounter this all the time in coaching people with their homeschooling and their educational approaches, because they start thinking because of a particular label or disability or something like that, their child can't learn. They don't say that out loud, but as long as that's in your mind, it's difficult, they can't do it, there's not a way for them to do it, then they won't. Now, your child may have enough significant damage or obstacles that they can't learn. They'd be the exception to the rule. But what I'm talking about in general, what you need to understand is that your child is a learning machine. You can think you taught them to walk, but not really. We had a child we could not teach to walk, and we tried and tried. And finally, at 22 months old, we took him to a specialist who figured out he had cerebral palsy, mildly on that right side. He couldn't flatten his foot. He couldn't do his muscles. If you have that, you can't teach him. So there's got to be an internal mechanism. Your child can learn, and you need to understand whatever it is. Can they learn math? Yes. Oh, my child's not good at math. Yeah, but they can learn it. How about reading? Yeah, my child's not good at reading, so we don't require that. Of course your child is good at reading, or can be. Your child can learn. But look, it goes with this second idea, and that is my child can learn without my help. Now, this is probably the toughest one to get past. But if you just look at what kids learn about phones and computers and friends and stuff in the air and what people are saying and all kinds of things with language and just everything, if you just watch it, they learn so much. My child can learn without my help. When you understand that, you're on the road to growing an independent learner. Now, that doesn't say they don't get your help. It doesn't say they have to, but it says my child can learn without my help. Number 3, my child can know more than I know. I was listening in prep for this to Louis Armstrong's song, What a Wonderful World. And it has a line in there of that they'll learn so much more than I'll ever know. So he's kind of put learning and knowing together in that song about the next generation and what's available to them, what they'll learn. I don't know that your child will know more than you. I don't know if my kids will know more than me. I don't even know how we'd measure it. But I know they can. I know there are areas right now that they can know way more than I do. And unless you have this understanding, you, in the course of time, do not treat your child as an independent learner. You treat them as a dependent person, and it's not the way to go. Number 4, learning always involves frustration and struggle. It's normal. Let's just take a sip of coffee and think about that for a second. You know how much of the time that you think something's wrong when nothing's wrong at all, except your child is frustrated and struggling? That's normal. That's how it works. That's education. Congratulations. It's the way it goes. When they're little, we think it's cute and fun, and most kids get over it. They try to stack books or Legos or something, and they fall down. They do it again. They try it again and try it again until they figure it out, right? But it's frustrating because you know how you want it to go, and it doesn't go that way. That's actually the nature of learning. And regardless of what you do, it's going to involve that. You know, it's striking. We're in the middle of this recording, in the middle of the coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, issue in 2020. And, you know, opponents and pundits and everyone is in this battle of they're frustrated and they're trying to criticize what's being done. And the reality is everybody, the whole world's learning. They're just trying to learn how to deal with this. We haven't had practice like this, not really, since 1918 or so. So learning involves that frustration. It's just frustrating and they're struggling. We're trying to learn how to deal with this thing. And that's the nature of learning. So when you see your kids struggling with a subject, that's not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're on target. Number 5, learning always involves personal breakthroughs, which feel great, partly because the frustration goes away, partly because we celebrate. I remember one day Brooks had been working on vectors, and vector math is, all I know about it is connected to how cell phones are able to transmit for certain distances or certain ways. So, and that's probably wrong. But he was not making sense of it. He was struggling. And that evening we had some guests over, and he came outside. We're all sitting there enjoying the weather, and he came out and was so excited. He'd figured out vectors, and he started explaining it to us, and we were all glassing over. But it was great to see him excited, because that's the payoff. There's a personal breakthrough that comes. So a child goes, I get it. Number 6, learning the basics can't be skipped without harming my child. So this is a little painful to own up to, because we do want to skip the basics. I don't know why, mostly because of the frustration game. But learning the basics can't be skipped without harming my child. And it's because those are the fundamentals. I mean, you can see all kinds of great geniuses, and you can pretend what you want, but you know, Einstein did know how to do math. And Picasso could paint normal stuff too. He learned how to work with paints and colors and all the rest. Most innovation is done by people who very clearly know the basics, because the basics are how the game works. If you don't know the basics of photography, you're going to struggle as a photographer. I'm sorry. And it's the same with reading and mathematics and writing, etc. It's part of why we put these courses together. A lot of what we do is share some unusually simple and basic insights that once people have them, they can build upon them. So if you are struggling with the basics, learning your math tables or something, then just endure, because there's going to be more harm down the road. Number 7. Growing my child's curiosity is the secret sauce for lifetime learning. Have you ever thought about that? You know, learning, I've said many times, involves curiosity and frustration. We mentioned frustration. Well, here's the real secret sauce: their curiosity. So when they can engage their curiosity, they become great learners. And it's a bit of a hint. If you find areas your child is particularly interested in, if it's moral, I would indulge it. I would encourage them to find more stuff they like that. Now, there are boundaries. Oh, my child is curious about gaming. Well, that may not be what you're aiming for. I had a child who was curious about being a skater, but we lived out in the country, and many other things were involved with that, and getting him hauled around places, and then watching him wear black all the time, and finding his life in skating just didn't seem to be a match for what we knew about him. And so as a result, he's now a journalist in Washington, D.C. So there's that. Growing my child's curiosity is the secret sauce. Find things they're curious about. Encourage it. There's a biography of Feynman, the physicist that famous for many things, but he was the youngest guy on the Manhattan Project. And his dad would go out in the woods with him, and they'd see a bird, and he'd say, hey, that's a pepper ring doodle doot. And Feynman would say to his daddy, that's really its name? And he says, it doesn't matter what you call it. Let's watch what it does. And said they get engaged in curious nature of watching and observing how a bird worked or whatever they were doing. So he cultivated that curiosity in Feynman's soul. And number 8, learning always involves personal breakthroughs, which feel great. Now, that seems to be an absolute repeat of what I said earlier. I'll dial this up. Oh, no. Okay, so I'll go with this. Obviously, I'm not on my game. So, personal breakthroughs. Um, not sure what I was aiming for there, except in a similar game, there are learning breakthroughs. I may have just repeated this, but regardless, I have my little sheet over here. I can solve this mystery. Yeah, I did not type the right thing. I copied the wrong thing. So let me tell you about number 8. So number 8 is about actually hypocrisy. Okay? So you can just watch the magic. Watch the magic. Hypocrisy kills. So I'm a model learner for my child. So that's actually number 8. Got it? And we'll get to it when we get to it. Actually, I can put it here. So number 8. I'm going to paste that. Uh-oh. You know, this is really quite an amazing opportunity to stress something. Do you see how frustrating this is? Because what's going on is I'm actually learning. See how that works? And so I wanted to add this stuff in. See, here it goes. So I'm going to add that in. I can highlight this because I know how that works and hit that scratch through, I hope. And you don't even know what the scratch throughs are for. And lo and behold, it's still going to work. Isn't that great? So, as we look at this frustrating breakthrough, number 8 is hypocrisy kills. So I'm a model learner for my child. And what that means is that if you are saying to your child they should read and you never read, that's sending a bit of a mixed message. It's kind of hypocritical. It's the do what I say and not what I do. So on some level or another, if your children are being encouraged to be independent learners and thinkers, you need to be an independent learner and thinker. What are you working on? What subject are you trying to conquer? What skill are you adding to your life? It may be a simple one. Maybe it's cooking a new meal. It doesn't matter. But it means, are you modeling the same thing in this growth orientation? Do you handle the frustration of learning, or do you just avoid it? Do you complain and not stretch yourself? You see, if you have that hypocrisy engaged, then what you're modeling is going to go against the game. And so if you believe hypocrisy is a bad thing, you'll become a model learner for your child. So, what difference does it make? So what? These applicational questions are really valuable. So if I know these 8 things, what difference does it make? And I think one of the easy ways to figure that out is just simply to go through them, imagining the opposite or imagining the absence. That's why they were scratched through. So what if it wasn't true that your child could learn? So my child can learn the idea to believe. What if that's not true or absent? Well, if it's not true that my child, let's just say the opposite, it can't learn, then what's the point of schooling? Either way, it's not going to matter. You know, if you think your child can learn in some context but not in yours, it's the same thing. It means my child can't learn at home, therefore I have to put them somewhere. Others believe they can't learn at school. I think they can learn. Now, what they learn is a little bit of the issue. Number 2, my child can learn without my help. What if that wasn't true? What if they had to have your help all the time on everything? They could not learn unless you taught them. Then you'd have to become the expert on every single subject. And it would be incredibly exhausting and impossible. How about number 3? My child can know more than I know. What if they can't? What if a child can only know as much as you know or less? Then for your child to learn more, you'd have to learn more, I guess. You also would never listen to your child. Well, they don't know. They give some insight or something about where you are or some part of the world, or some fact in history or some way a computer works, and you go, well, they don't know what I know, so you don't listen. So humility and teachability are out the window. How about number 4? Learning always involves frustration, struggle. It's normal. What if that's not true? Then anytime someone is frustrated, then it always means we're doing it wrong. Anytime learning is frustrating or a struggle, then obviously we're not teaching them right. That's insane. It's kind of the stuff I see young moms do with babies. They decide whenever a baby cries, then the most common is hungry. And so they feed their child all the time. But babies can cry for other reasons too. So we get in our mind a mistaken notion. And if you think that learning never has frustration or struggle in it, then you'll think something's wrong. And instead of staying the course so they'll learn, you'll probably quit or quit inviting them to learn the subject. Number 5, learning always involves personal breakthroughs, which feel great. It feels so great, I wrote it twice. Learning always involves personal breakthroughs, which feel great, and they do feel great, both to the individual and to you. But that's the fun of it. However, what if that wasn't true? What if breakthroughs didn't feel good? Whatever, I learned something. Then boring learning, education would be always boring and painful and useless to the individual. I think God is hardwired, my understanding of God, if you want to call it nature, is hardwired us to find a little kick, a little joy in having a breakthrough and solving something. It keeps us in motion as problem-solving machines. Number 6, learning the basics can't be skipped without harming my child. What if that's not true? Well, if that's not true, what you're going to do is skip the basics. They don't matter. They'll figure it out later. We do that with reading. We read and we read on, and then we make sense of something, and the earlier thing can kind of make sense, like in a movie. Fine. That doesn't work with math. Math doesn't work that way in the least, because what math does is if you don't understand a concept that's foundational, you don't suddenly make sense of it later. You might in some strange world, but on balance, if the basics can be skipped, why even study them at all? Why would colleges have courses in the basics? They can't be skipped. But if you think they can, then you're going to generate harm. Otherwise, what's the point? Number 7. 7 is growing my child's curiosity is the secret sauce. Well, what if that's not true? That it's not about child's curiosity. Well, then it's going to be something else. It's going to be military strategy, brainwashing, or hopelessly you can't see them grow. If you don't understand or don't believe that growing my child's curiosity is essential, is key, then you've missed out. In fact, you've missed out on your life, because the things that you've done best at were the ones you're most curious about. It's a solid principle. And then finally, hypocrisy kills. What if that's not true? What if you can just be the biggest hypocrite on the planet? So, I tell my children they need to work hard, and I lay around all day. I tell them they need to watch what they eat, and I eat junk food all day. I tell them they need to learn and grow and study, and I never study anything. I tell them that, the boob tube, the television will make you a dodo. It dumbs you down, and I watch it all day long. You just go through it and just understand if it's not true that hypocrisy kills, then it doesn't matter what you do. But it does. Anyway, that's what I've got in this. I want to throw out here. Check out our YouTube channel if you want to hear more of these. It's one of the easy ways to find them. And our blog, both at Independent Homeschool and IndependentHomeschool.com. So now I'm going to stop sharing. See if I can get back to see if there's any kind of question that you have. You've got a second to do that. So if there are any questions there. Anyway, I really think this whole game of these 8 ideas for mom and dad must believe, are really crucial. It's a mindset. And if you need to keep refreshing yourself on these kinds of things to understand your kids really can be excellent learners. Awesome. And what you're there for is that you're kind of the chief learning officer, so the CLO. And so what you're doing is trying to cause them to learn, not necessarily teach them, but bring that forth so they can learn the great skill of learning to teach themselves. Anyway, that's all I've got. It was fun. Bless you.